Hi, friends and new friends. As a content creator, I'm always looking for new sites to post my content on so I can reach the maximum amount of viewers. But some of the sites that I post on are centralized and they come with a degree of censorship, and that concerns me. So I've begun to reach out to creators of alternative sites that run on blockchain. And my first interview was Jeff Kerdakis with Uptrend. And after I did that interview, a lady reached out to me on Twitter to do an interview with the following gentleman. His name is Jacques Zhu from Discussions.app. It's a Reddit-like site that runs on EOS. So we're going to talk to Jacques in this episode. I'm Christopher Carruthers, also known as Tao of Satoshi, and you're watching Cash Alternative TV. So what is Cash Alternative TV, other than that catchy jingle? Well, it's a show about cryptocurrency with a focus on Dash, which aims to be a digital cash for the world, an alternative to cash. If that's something that you're interested in, you want to learn more about Dash, or just want to hang out with me some more, don't forget to subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss an episode. Now onto the topic of today's show. Well, as I said off the top, today's show is a discussion with Jacques Zhu, the creator of Discussions.app, and it's happening now. Welcome to the show, Jacques.
Good to be here. Good to be here.
Okay, so for the people that might not know you, you're Jacques Zhu. You're the co-founder of Discussions.app. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm one of four, actually.
One of four. Okay. So can you give us a brief introduction of who you are and how you got into cryptocurrency?
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Jack. I originally was born in China, moved to New York, spent most of my life in New York growing up. And how I got into cryptocurrency actually is when I was studying at NYU, next to Wall Street, there was a Bitcoin center right next to the New York Stock Exchange. And, being like a curious college student, I went in and kind of checked that out. And I remember very vividly a bunch of Bitcoin maximalists, if you could call it. I was on the stage giving presentation about Bitcoin. And they were literally screaming at these stockbrokers and bankers, telling them how Bitcoin's going to destroy their business. So that got me really interested in what this thing is, and why is it doing in the New York Stock Exchange. I was studying mechanical engineering at the time, but I was pretty interested in business, and I was running the NYU entrepreneurship program as the vice president. So yeah, that's kind of my first encounter, and when I saw Bitcoin, I realized what it was. I didn't see it as kind of a anarchist revolution or whatever ideology people ascribe to it. For me, it was a truly global monetary system, so that anyone with this public-private key and internet access could start transacting with each other, and that for me was the most amazing thing about Bitcoin, and that's what got me hooked.
So how do you feel about the current progression of Bitcoin? We all know it started in the white paper as a peer-to-peer electronic digital currency, but what do you feel about how it's become now, like the maximalist creed of like a store of value? How do you think about that?
I don't have a really strong opinion on it because of the fact that there are alternatives that popped up. Obviously, you still have Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin vying for the Bitcoin name with two very different goals. Bitcoin Cash trying to be that global transaction system. Now Bitcoin's trying to be that store of value. Again, I don't have a strong opinion on it. My interest in Bitcoin was that it was this global system, global financial system. So, it doesn't matter to me as long as there are alternatives available, like Dash, for example, like EOS, that it just opened up that window, that idea of having a global financial system that anyone could easily access. So if Bitcoin was the only option at the moment, I wouldn't enjoy it very much, just because the transaction fee and speed and trying to do transaction on it is quite difficult. But because there are other alternative that is available right now, I think Bitcoin acting as kind of the gold standard for cryptocurrency is actually quite valuable, if anything.
Yeah, well, it's definitely something that we all have to tip our hat to, because this is the one that started everything, basically, right? That enabled this technology to happen. So we always have to make sure that we tip our hat to that. But at the same time, it doesn't really function as for the way that it was intended to, right? So you have coins like BCH and Dash and Litecoin to a lesser extent that function as that transactional cash. And then you have other coins like Ethereum and EOS, which is you're involved in, that are more like for apps and stuff like that, and on the blockchain. So I don't think that there's only room for one. Like I think that will have definitely happen that we'll have more than one currency. That it's not one to rule them all type of thing.
And the whole point, of Bitcoin was to kind of decentralize the currency system, away from just the US dollar or the euro or the yuan or whatever. So it's kind of hypocritical for the Bitcoin people to say, you have to use my currency. I'm not sure if they see the irony in that, but it is there. So it's quite funny.
You're right. So Jacques, I know that you know that I'm into Dash here in Cash Alternative TV. It's a show about cryptocurrency with a focus on Dash, but I'm always interested in hearing about other digital currencies as well. So the currency that you're interested in is EOS, right? And that's where you have your discussions.app based on. So could you give us a little bit of a rundown of what EOS is?
Yeah, for sure. So EOS is a very general purpose blockchain architecture. It's designed for applications in mind, and kind of Ethereum set the kind of general purpose computing platform. And in some cases it's true, but I think they borrow a little too much from Bitcoin in terms of the transaction models, where every little thing you do on the blockchain is a transaction that the user needs to pay. So what EOS offers is a system that is a lot more flexible. So for example, if you went on and used a discussion yourself, you might have realized that actually the whole application is on chain. Everything you do is actually recorded on chain, but you might have realized that you don't have to pay for any transaction fees. And that's part of the design of EOS, where it allows application developers to pay for their users' usage. So that was like a huge game changer for us. Again, I got into Bitcoin because I thought it was the global financial system. And I really wanted to build a business on top of this new global financial system. And obviously, Ethereum was kind of the second iteration that tried to offer a platform that I could do that on. But due to the transaction fee, due to the congestion, due to the scalability issues, it was just really, we couldn't do it. We just couldn't do it. If Ethereum offered the same, we don't have any like ideological attachment to EOS. We just determined that this would be the best platform that provided the best user experience for what we wanted to do.
Okay, so can you explain a little bit of how EOS differs from Ethereum, like how it can have no transactions using your app? I mean, no transaction fees using your app?
Yeah, so it uses a very different resource management system. So you can kind of think of each blockchain as kind of like a highway, and there's a certain number of cars that could pass by. So that's the traditional model thinking about it. Whereas EOS, their resource management model is more like it's like sharing resources, right? So let's say you're like parking spaces essentially. Let's say everyone's got their own home, they got parking space, but sometimes you're not using your own. So if you're not using that space, it's just kind of just sitting there wasted. And what EOS allows you to do is basically kind of lay your claim to space. This is your home, so that's what you do when you stake your token. And then when you're not using it, you kind of rent it out. You could offer up that resource up to for another user to kind of take advantage of. So the resource management system is quite different. It's a lot more flexible and allows application developers to pay for user usage of the applications.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I have joined discussions.app before I saw you on Twitter. I don't know that brought us together. It was another user on Twitter that said, "Why don't you interview this person?" Because I just interviewed Jeff Kerdakis of Uptrend. So she's like, when are you going to interview Jacques Zhu of discussions.app? And I was like, what's discussions.app? So I went and checked it out. It is cool. Like I posted some stuff on there, some of my content, and I saw that it was through transaction. So like after I finished posting, it'll say like view transaction on the blockchain. And I was like, wow, that was really fast. That was like in real time. And I was like, what? That's really like on the blockchain now. And I was pretty impressed. So you're the co-founder of discussions.app. Can you give me a general rundown of like what was the idea behind it? Like when did you get inspired to do it, and how did the process unfold to create it?
Yeah, so I actually joined an existing team, Novosphere, before it was discussions.app. they were developing their technology to kind of make a better user experience, a better private focus form. So my background, again, I actually started business on Bitcoin. This was back in 2013 when I first discovered Bitcoin and trying to build a business on top of it. And one of the first things I did was build a platform that allows you to kind of connect with advertisers and content creators to kind of pay them in Bitcoin to advertise. Because back then it was really hard to get your hands on Bitcoin. You either had to mine it, or you had to if you give the information to some shady exchange in hopes that they would send you some coin, right? And sometimes a lot of these exchanges go down. So I wanted a way to kind of let people work for Bitcoin. So that's what's the idea. Obviously, 2013 there was a huge market crash. All the companies that we're working with went out of business. So with that, I folded that company, and then I ran into Steemit, which was like a really interesting concept. And when I first saw Steemit, I was like, this is exactly the kind of thing that I want to do, but it wasn't flexible enough. And so I actually created content for Steemit just to kind of learn a system, how system work. And once the EOS blockchain was announced, like this is it. This platform is perfect, because you couldn't really create applications and you couldn't have these smart contracts run on Steem blockchain. With the EOS blockchain, you could do that. You could design a much more flexible, what's essentially a business model, and put that on the blockchain and have it run automatically. And that was the amazing thing to me, that you could have these really just you could create business models and you could upload them onto the blockchain. And once I saw that possibility, I just jumped right into it.
Excellent. So you're a team of four, right? You said you're one of four co-founders. Okay.
Yeah.
So like when I'm looking at that site of yours, discussions.app, it kind of reminds me a lot of Reddit. Is that like kind of something that
Yeah.
you were? Is that something that you were aiming for?
Yeah. So it started its life as a Reddit clone, if you will. The other co-founder, Asphyxia, he wanted to create a forum that's his inspiration. He came from different idea for discussions. His inspiration actually came from the block size debate that was happening on the r/Bitcoin subreddit. I think there's a recent video that kind of delved a little, touched on the censorship that happens on that subreddit.
Mm-hmm.
So we created a system called delegated moderation that allows you to pick who becomes your moderator, and that fits in line a lot with what I was trying to do, because I'm creating these business models, but these are decentralized businesses, right? So you have these token holders, you have these stakeholders that's devoting their time and energy and maybe even money into these projects, and they should be able to say, give their opinion about the project and the direction of the project without being censored. So again, it started a lot. We took a lot of inspiration from Reddit, and we kind of try to imagine what Reddit would be in the 21st century, because Reddit, it is quite an old site, and it's starting to show its age a little bit. And we realized that Reddit in its core is just a news aggregation, is a social aggregation website. And so, okay, well, where does news stories break now? News stories don't break on websites anymore. They break on social media, on like YouTube, on Twitter, on Instagram, all these different myriad of social media platforms. So, okay, well, we're gonna take that concept and we're gonna update it to the 21st century. So if you go to discussions right now, you can see tweets, you can see Instagram posts, you can see YouTube videos, and they all show up nicely, and it gives that user really, really good multimedia experience that they don't with some other blockchain social media applications, that they don't necessarily have that.
Okay, so I have a couple of specific questions about Discussions.app. How long has Discussions.app been live?
I think we're just over a year now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I started December of 2019. Yeah.
December 2019.
Oh no,
so
sorry.
2018. Oh yeah, okay.
Sorry.
That would be really new if it was December 2019.
Yeah.
So how many users do you think you have right now, approximately?
Actual users, I think we're hovering around maybe 30, 40. In terms of visitors to the site and readers to the site, we are hovering around about 500 to 600 visitors.
Okay.
So a lot of people visiting and reading the site, but quite few actually contributing, participating in the voting and commenting, which is kind of the norm. With Reddit is always that like 5% does all the work and 95% just lurk. So I
Okay.
think it's a similar story there. Yeah.
Okay, now I have a couple of general economic questions about the site.
Yeah.
One is just a basic one, and one is from my own experience. So
Yeah.
the first one is you mentioned that the app creators can help pay for the transaction fees. So
Yeah.
what's the economic model of Discussions.app? Like, how are you going to make money from this?
Yeah. So it's a very simple process. Whenever there's a transaction that is related to a token, so like let's say for example, I give you a tip of 100 Atmos, a portion of that, a very small transaction fee, is taken from that token transaction, and it goes back to all the Atmos token holders. So you might have seen that we support more than, obviously you support EOS, we support Atmos, but we also support Blockbase, Pummel, MPT, and Boy, and we're planning to expand our support to more projects soon. So our model is very similar to that of an exchange, where every time there's a transfer of token value, we just take a small cut and distribute it back to Atmos token holders.
Oh, okay, so the more
Yeah,
people that are using this site, the more money you're going to make from transaction fees.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, that sounds good. And the other question I had was from my own experience. So I think you believe you tipped me, or somebody tipped me from that site, and that
Yeah.
now I notice in my wallet that I'm staking. So does EOS or Atmos have automatic staking? Like I didn't ask to stake; it just says that I'm making a certain amount per day now. Like so.
Yeah, so the Atmos token, it does automatically stake for you. That's our current design, and we can have different phases. So the end goal of discussion is not to be this central website you just visit, and you just kind of extract all the value out of. The goal is to have it actually be decentralized and have it be Sybil resistant. We see, it's not a good idea to for its discussion or for anybody in general if it becomes an important site, let's say like Reddit, and let's say there's content that we disagree with and we think should be censored, and there are times gonna that we think that might be the case. It might be something very extreme like child pornography or, you know, death threats, things that we might want to monitor. But we think that there should be ability for people to pick and choose what they want to see, and what they think information is should be accessible. So the end goal is actually to decentralize it. So we have staking right now, just as a user, if you just have your tokens on the platform, it's staking automatically. But for discussion 3.0, which is our third iteration discussions, we're gonna release a physical software, well, not physical, a software you have to download, if you want to, and if you download and run it, you actually become a discussions node, and you actually generate more Atmos from running that node, and yet contributing to the resilience of the network, of the platform.
Interesting. So let's go backtrack a little bit to our previous conversation. And you mentioned it earlier about censorship. Like it's a big deal on some centralized websites. And
Yeah.
so how is Discussions.app going to be different from these websites and not have the censorship that's been introduced in the other ones?
Yeah. So I think censorship, when people think of censorship, they just think people getting, shutting down the conversation, and obviously that's not something we want. The flip side is that if you don't have some mechanism to kind of um, shut down spammers, for example, or shut down people who are actively trying to poison your site with material, that's gonna be very difficult for our platform to survive and to thrive. We want this be a friendly place and a vibrant place for people to have open discussions about different topics, maybe controversial topics. So again, we have this is everything's recorded on the blockchain. So if you are a superpower user, you could always just go directly to the blockchain and see everything that's been posted on it. So that's kind of our last line of defense. And on top of that, we built a what we call the delegated moderation system, where again you could pick and choose what kind of moderation you want. Maybe you don't care that there are spams on your newsfeed, so there might be a moderator dedicated to removing spams, and you could actually change that moderator. So you will have moderators geared towards specific tasks, but as the user, you have the ultimate power to decide who gets to moderate your feed and who doesn't.
Okay, so I noticed that when you go to discussions.app, there's like certain hashtags. Like if you say if you use like all or dash or EOS or whatever. So does that, like when you post to there and you use the dash hashtag, for example, does that mean like only people that search for dash can see that, or can it be seen in other areas of the website?
You can see it. Yeah, you could just see it as on other areas of the website. Actually, do you want me to show? I'm not sure if I can share my screen. We've been talking about the UI. Okay.
Yeah, there's your screen there. Yep.
Okay, so this is discussions. So I think you were talking about the hashtags there's on the side here.
Yes.
Yeah. So you can see them across site. We can actually I'm not sure we can find posts right now, but you can actually have multiple hashtags in a post, and they will show up on um, the different subtags, what we call them. So obviously the most active one is the EOS tag, and we have 33 members. And here was the moderated delegated moderation system that I was talking about.
Okay.
So here, this is the default moderator. That's me, Novosphere Jax, and you can actually remove me as a moderator. I moderate spam. Sometimes people just post scam things on the website that I don't think should be on discussions, because it might mislead our users thinking that we're endorsing this project, or this project is legitimate, or just general spam. There are users who are actively trying to poison the site with malicious content. So
yeah, you can't get away from that. That's for sure. Spam is going to be everywhere on the internet.
Yeah. So this haven't been completely built out yet. So in the future, you could apply to be a candidate. And if you apply to a candidate, the user could select you as the moderator. So I'm actually going to remove myself as a moderator. So it's just that simple. You one click and you're reading the full raw site of discussions.
Okay.
So that's how the delegated moderation system works.
Okay.
Yeah. And obviously we're working with a lot of the projects in the space. Again, we're working very closely with Boy. We're working very closely with Pummel and Blockbase. I don't know why they're not showing up. So Blockbase is another project we're working closely with. And you mentioned tipping before. So we only support our partner projects at the moment. But again, we plan to support a lot more in the future.
Okay. Let me put a plug in for Dash right now. Hopefully you'll accept Dash at some point.
Yeah. Again, I'm not sure. Okay, I'm back.
Okay.
Again, the goal is this. We pitch discussion as the home of token communities. There isn't a good platform to kind of accommodate this new generation of communities that are working together, but in a decentralized fashion to build out the future. Dash being one of them. So we really want to build a platform that provides the tools for these communities to kind of come and collaborate and to build together and to achieve their goal. And that's what discussion is about. That discussion is about worry providing tools for token communities to kind of build themselves up.
Okay, so I want to give my 2 cents. I think it's a very well done app. I haven't had any problems whatsoever in signing up or creating an account and posting and tipping and everything else. I haven't had any issues with anything. So I think it's a very well done site. And like you say, it's still being under development, right?
Yeah, we have, I'll give you a sneak peek. We have 2 really exciting things coming up. Obviously, tipping, is kind of standard. It's just like kind of the very basic thing that you could use your token to incentivize user behavior and kind of reward people for contributing to community. We're doing a lot more exciting things in the future. We're doing a tighter integration with Twitter so that when people post to Twitter, and promotes the projects on very different social media platforms, that actually give you a score. And project founders could use that score to kind of start rewarding their most active users for promoting their projects outside the discussions. So, discussions, we're not, I think the biggest difference between discussions and other blockchain social media platforms is that we're not really closing our we're not asking users to leave Twitter. We're not asking people to leave Instagram. We're just saying, hey, You could bring your content here, you could bring your community, and not only that, you could connect these two communities. So you could see a tweet right next to an Instagram post, and I think that's something that's quite beautiful.
Okay, so it's you're Jacques Zhu, a co-founder of Discussions.app. It was a pleasure to talk to you today. It was a great interview. Learned a lot about EOS and your app.
Likewise, it was
Yeah, so
great being on the show.
if somebody would like to contact you, Jacques, how would they go about doing that?
Yeah, for sure. So you could always make a post on discussions. We monitoring that 24/7. You can also tag us at the Novosphere or discussions.app if you search it, and you can find myself at Jack Wales. I'm always happy to talk about anything crypto related, anything discussion and EOS related.
Okay. Did you have anything that you want to say to our viewers before we wrap things up?
Go sign up for discussions. Obviously, give us feedback. We're actively developing features with the input of our users. So again, we pitching as the home of token community. So we want to let's get your input and how we could build this platform to be welcoming of these different token communities.
All right. So thanks for joining the show. I'm happy to have you on, and wish you the best of luck in the future with your app.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Well, that was my interview with Jacques Zhu from Discussions.app. I hope you enjoyed it. I have very much enjoyed having him on the show, and I would gladly have him on again. Very well-spoken young man, and he definitely has a nice app there. I've tried it, and it works really well. So that's it for me today. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and click the bell if you want to see more from me and Cash Alternative TV episodes. Until next time, remember, Dash is a better money for a better future, and that future is getting closer every day. Bye for now.